Hello and welcome to the Property Management Show. I'm your host, Alex Osenenko. My day job is the CEO of 4.5, a marketing company that works exclusively with fee-based property management companies. I spent the last 7 years of my life helping property management companies become more successful by improving sales, marketing, and operational efficiency. On this show, we'll deconstruct success into its key components and invite subject matter experts to help you improve every facet of your business. Thank you for tuning in and enjoy the show. So hey guys, thanks for lending on this podcast today. This is probably the last one of 2016. We have an awesome topic today. It's top 10 mistakes and lessons learned. I have a gentleman here as my guest. I've known him for a while now. His name is Brad Larsen. He is a couple of credentials I'm going to mention. He's a property manager since 2004, so he's got some experience. Brad also has master's in business administration degree. He is a retired U.S. Army captain. Thank you for your service and really appreciate that. And I had, if I had to like 3 words to describe Brad, I would say experience, education, and drive. And he never does things halfway. I mean, just the fact that he spent so much time and energy preparing for this interview and putting together the 10 mistakes and lessons. When I saw the list, I was like, wow, those are very, very good. And we're going to try to fit all of them into this show today. So, Brad, how are you today?
I'm great, Alex. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, man, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. So let's, without further ado, unless I missed something in your introduction that you feel is relevant and important, let's dive right into the first one.
No, Alex, you forgot extremely charming and good looking. Forgot that.
Well, that goes without saying. Good man.
Sure.
All right. So what do you feel is the number one, most often made mistake, and what's the lesson that people can learn from it?
Yeah, Alex, you were talking about that in the prep here just a second ago. So I took some time and wrote down a list of roughly 10 things I thought would be worth mentioning. And, to be honest, it's going to be airing some dirty laundry a little bit, but that's how people learn. And I think it's going to be beneficial to everybody to kind of to see what we want to go through on this list. And we'll try to get through each one of them, as you mentioned, and talk about some of these in detail to put them in context. So maybe it can help some folks out there that might need that. A little bit of understanding, a little bit deeper on some of these issues, and we can make it, make it a fun deal, make it the top 10 David Letterman type stuff going on, and it should be kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So hit me with one.
Okay, so one of the first things I talked about when I sent you that email with the prep was waiting too long to hire a business development person, and it took me a little bit of time to get into that. We were probably close to 200, 250 homes by the time we really figured out that it was a necessity to hire a business development. And you've had some good folks on your show, and they're going to talk about that being basically one of the first things you have to do if your intentions are to grow, simply because you can't do everything as a business owner. You can't run operations, you can't run payroll, you can't do everything else, and then go out and do 2 or 3 appointments a week or even a day in attempting to bring on further business.
Well, before you get appointments, sorry, Brad, to break your flow, but before you get appointments, you have to do, a very structured, you have to execute a very structured sales process. You got to follow up with people. People just don't fall on your head, right? They might be interested this moment, but you don't get back to them right away if you don't have a follow-up process, if you have a system. And just want to preface this by saying I'm a firm believer that a salesperson should be an asset to an organization, not a liability, not a drain. He or she should be an asset. So with that, how long did it take you to get to 200, and what were you like? What was the epiphany? Like, how did you realize, okay, this is it? I gotta get a salesperson.
Really, what happened is I started listening to some of the information the Australians put out through leading property managers of Australia, and that's one of the first things they beat into your head is hire business development, and it really got to the point where we hit 200 homes. That rang true, and I got some good advice through NARPA mentors. And then to kind of to go exactly along the same lines you were talking about a second ago with the lead follow-up, I wish we would have fully implemented Lead Simple years ago to tie into our business development. And I know that's a cheap plug for you guys, but it really is holding true because we're going through a business development reorganization right now. And we're creating an inside and outside approach. And now we're implementing that Lead Simple program, and we're very impressed with it. And so it's one of those lessons learned, I'll tell you, that ties into the business development side, is not getting a solid CRM platform stood up soon enough.
I got you. So you mentioned something about overpaying a BDM. I've heard that mentioned before by a number of people, and essentially what it comes down to is having the recurring revenue style commission sharing, where the person continues to earn as that client pays a management fee. Is that how you structured it initially?
We did in the beginning, and that was a mistake. I think what happened is our intentions going into hiring that initial business development person was we'll be lucky to sign on 100 homes. We'll be lucky. In 2016, we signed on 225. So it was a situation to where we look back at the compensation model, and we all said to each other, this is just unsustainable. We can't continue to do this. So we had to go through a bit of a reorganization process, and that's why we're getting now into Lead Simple and hiring a couple folks to handle the business development side. If I had to make a recommendation, I would say do a base salary, do a commitment to that particular business development person, and then do some one-time incentive type commissions on top of that to give somewhere in the complete package range that fits your market. Because you want to get a good salesperson, not necessarily a converted realtor.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. So my recommendation there stands at a base salary, and as well as a percentage of the annual contract value the person signs. So, for example, if the annual contract value of a single family home in San Antonio is, I don't know, what is it, 2,500, 2,200?
Yeah, it's a fair guess.
Yeah, so you got to shave a bit of off, like say 10% or something, and add that as a commission pay. But so they're incentivized by signing more customers, reaching out for referrals, as well as doing new business development and other things. But if they sign a house with an owner with 20 homes, they know they got to work this deal a little bit harder. They'll get paid more. So I think it's what they bring. They need to eat a little bit of what they bring in, and that's to me that sounds like an aligned, well-aligned compensation.
Agreed. And the checks and balances there is we are in a portfolio management style. So if the business development person wants to go out and sign up the doghouse, well, the portfolio manager here that would be in the batting order to take on that home can say, no, I'm not taking that home. And that's where, as the Australians would say, that the water finds its own level. And so we've been using that technique, and that works out very well. So we don't get anybody just to sign up whatever they can just to earn that cheap commission up front.
Very good idea. So checks and balances. The portfolio manager goes, "Nuh-uh, you're not bringing that to me."
Correct. Yeah, and they've said that, and we don't, it's no harm, no foul in saying that, because if nobody can manage it, if nobody wants to manage it, well, there you go. You're not going to sign it up.
Let me ask you this. This brings up a good point. Do you guys have any cross-departmental training? In other words, your portfolio managers have sit-downs with the BDMs. Do you have any kind of that exchange going on in your company?
Absolutely. Yeah, because what we're actually implementing now is the opportunity potentially on a second appointment with the business development person is for the portfolio manager to go with the business development person. Imagine that meeting where the BDM walks in with the portfolio manager and says, how you doing, Mr. and Mrs. Owner? This will be the person behind me handling your home. I'd like to introduce you to your portfolio manager, your single owner point of contact. And that's been working out very well because the owners immediately take to them and say, oh, you're the person that's going to be working with me. And so they immediately start conversating on how to get their home ready, what's got to happen, the tenant handover procedures, etc. And some of those situations where we want to put the nail in the coffin, as they say, to get that business.
That is absolutely brilliant. I spent some time in enterprise software sales, and one of the things that usually gets the deal across to the signature is bringing an engineer. The salesperson would team up with an engineer, or they also called solution consultants, where the person is is able to speak the language, and especially in your case where the prospective owner will have that person as a main point of contact. It's a great way to introduce and show the might and the care the organization puts into this process. It's not just a salesperson talking. Here's a person who's, that's great. So to tie up number one, and saying waiting too long to hire a BDM. Let's take a time machine, Brad. Let's move
Mm-hmm.
you back a little bit. When do you hire? Like, think about it for a second. What point in your growth, in your business, growth, would you take the plunge and hire BDM?
Absolutely. Once you get to 100 homes, I think that's a great trigger point to start investigating that process. Because at that point, you have more than enough on your plate to manage. You need somebody to take over on the development side of the business to leave you to build the management side and build the operations side and let them do the sales. So
Gotcha.
that's exactly, I think, a great trigger point. You can make an argument for 150 or 50 or start at zero and build from scratch. But you got to imagine everyone's going to kind of do this on a shoestring to a certain extent, to where they're not going to go out and drop a big salary on a business development person when they have no income, no revenue coming in from management agreements.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So 100 homes. I like that. I like that, Mark. That's a pretty good. Although there's some property management startups that are financed from outside capital, like either existing successful real estate businesses or just simply investment money into building a portfolio. So in that case, if you want to start out hot and grow fast, you need one out of the gate. But if you're shoestring, 100 properties. I agree. That's perfect. All right, we beat that up pretty well. There are other resources. We have a podcast with Dennis Youssef, who is the BDM coach from Australia. Brilliant guy. So those of you that want to dig into this topic, look back in the archives. I think it was the last podcast.
Dennis is a great guy. I've had a couple of conversations with him. He's coming to San Antonio next month for a bit of a talk for the NARPM community here, and I'll get a chance to meet with Dennis a bit more. I think he's a tremendous resource for business development. So I'd highly encourage any of the listeners to reach out to him. I think he's fabulous at what he does.
I mean, the guy closed, hundreds and hundreds of properties himself before becoming a coach. So he's not just he's not preaching. He's actually not just preaching, but he's very well experienced and understands what needs to be done. Speaking of conferences, this episode is sponsored by PM Growth Summit. And Brad is coming, and Dennis is going to be speaking there, and we have a star-studded lineup. I think there's 11 tickets left at this point. So, folks, you want to jump on that, pmgrowthsummit.com. Lock yourself in. It's going to be a great, great conference in January in Florida.
I can't believe you have 11 tickets left. I'm surprised you haven't sold out.
Well,
I signed up as soon as we saw the lineup. It was a no-brainer.
Yeah, thank you for that, Brad. The tickets are expensive. This is the first one we do, and everything is included. It's unusual. The NARPM community is amazing, and I'm on the board of Cal NARPM, and I love NARPM to death, and I appreciate and respect its leadership, and I'm the biggest supporter. But the conferences are a lot less expensive with different kinds of speakers. The PM Grow is really designed for the graduates of NARPM conference. Folks in like you who have fast growing businesses who need that, master's, to PhD level education on growth. That's kind of what it provides. So,
sure. And that would be a great segue into point number 2 of my all-star list of mistakes would not be establishing metrics early enough. And to tie into what you're saying about NARPM, the Broker Owner Conference in 2014, we did an awesome drill. Tony Dross headed this up, to where we compiled numbers from all these different small, medium, and large management companies inside of NARPM, and we're able to basically see what the industry standard was for a lot of metrics that are fairly important to understand if you are gauging correctly to your peers left and right. And I think not establishing our metrics soon enough was a mistake, because we really, really started to hone in on this, a year and a half ago. And I put together a very, very detailed spreadsheet that we track religiously every month. And I look back, it's like, man, I wish we had done that from the very start, because we could have made adjustments quicker, and we could have realized where we were spending incorrect monies or needed to add in some certain monies. That's a big point of it.
Can I poke in it for a little bit? I really would like our audience to learn a couple of things. Specifically, what specific KPIs, key performance indicators, you find crucial for your business at this stage?
Sure. There's a couple of good ones. I like the staffing to revenue ratio as one of them. So you want to see how much your staffing expense costs out of your annual revenue. And so the magic line in the sand for a lot of these small, medium, large companies is around 50%. And that can be as high as 60 or as low as 40. Because when we did this drill in 14 with Broker Owner Conference, the smalls were doing, they could run a business with their staffing at about 40%.
What
The
does that mean?
larges,
Can you explain the percentage? What do you divide by what to get the
sure, let's
percentage?
say your total revenue is $1 million a year, just a round figure,
Hmm.
and your staffing expense for that year was 500,000. Well, that's easy math. That's 50% of your total revenue for the year was spent on staffing. And that's really kind of where it should be. If you get above 55 or 60%, you might be spending too much on your staff, or at least you want to take a very good look at it. I'm not saying it's wrong for your business. I'm just saying that's a metric that came out of the 14 conference that I really like to look at in our business.
Mm, interesting.
And
Okay.
so another tidbit here, another cool one we put together in the last year is the ratio of sundry income to management revenue. So defining sundries, what's a sundry? That's all your little programs you have out there. Your eviction assurance, rent protection. It could be your late fees, your NSF fees, your early termination fees, your all your little sundry programs that you may have going against your management fee revenue. And so the Aussies, they're tracking it at 0.25. So for every dollar of management fee revenue you generate, you could or should be getting in 25 cents of additional revenue for sundries.
Mm.
Okay. And so to throw you a bone here, ours is at 70 cents.
Oh wow.
70 cents. So
Does that include lease only fees or does not?
no, no, it does not include just your leasing only.
It does
Yeah,
not include leasing only. Does leasing
correct.
only? Do you guys do leasing only?
We do, and we consider that a management fee.
I got you. So that's wow.
Mhm.
So that 70 cent is above and beyond your management and lease up fees.
Correct. That's
Nice.
right. So that's a tribute to Darren Hunter, for example, as I've been one of his disciples in learning how to fee max your business.
What's some of the key? If you don't mind me asking, what's some of the key top sundry incomes on items on the list that make up that 70 cents, 70%?
Okay. For example, we charge a pet admin fee, and that's a big one. I don't know if I really want to mention numbers for this forum, but charging a pet admin fee of X, and imagine that over two pets on a property. Well, the pet admin fee, to use defined definition of the fee, is non-refundable. It goes to the house, it goes to us, it goes to the company. Okay. Deposit is actually owner's money in a lot of states, especially Texas. If you have a deposit, well, that's technically the owner's money. So we charge a fee, and that goes to us for the headache of dealing with the animal, the pet.
I got you. And I was going to say, what does that fee cover? What does the tenant get out of it?
Well, basically, that covers us to ensure that the any damage done by that tenant above and beyond the security deposit is covered.
Okay, so it's like a pet insurance. Well, it's not. Wouldn't call it insurance, but a
Yeah,
pet protection fee or assurance.
yeah, that's close enough. I mean,
Cool.
without getting into maybe semantics and where we start throwing those terms around, then people can start pointing fingers at you, saying you're saying it, calling it the wrong thing, and
Yeah. Yeah.
time to go to jail for you.
Yeah. Let's not go to jail. Let's not go there.
Yeah,
But it's a very creative way, and I've heard this done before. And Brad, you're a trailblazer, but we have some bright minds in the industry, and I've heard people structure it different ways. The whole idea is for the tenant, like I had a German Shepherd, I would pay more. You know what? I need to rent an apartment. I'm a responsible dude. I have a good family, whatever. My point is, I don't destroy things, but I have a dog, and I love my dog, and I want to live with my dog. Right? I'm happy to pay you extra, whatever, 20, 30, $50 a month for the privilege of living with my dog and not getting harassed.
yeah.
Um,
In this area, pet red has not yet become prevalent in this market, but it's creeping in. We're seeing it in Austin, we're seeing it in Houston, and some in Dallas. So it's only a matter of time before we start seeing it more and more nationwide. But I'm not a big fan of it for a lot of reasons I'm not going to dive into here.
Okay, that's fine. Let's give people some food for thought and move on to our number three. And you called it not being involved with NARPM early enough. You wanna expand on this a bit?
Yeah, I stumbled through kind of forming a management company and getting it going, and I didn't really understand what was out there. But then I discovered NARPM and found a good mentor and started attending the national conferences, especially the broker owner conference, and just learned an absolute ton. And again, it's one of those things you look back and say, man, I wish I discovered it from the very beginning. But I was, into it for a couple, 3 years before I really started getting involved in it. And once I did, man, that turned the page. That really helped big time.
Yeah, you get, to learn how people solve common problems, new innovative way to do it. There's other entrepreneurs, that are in a similar boat. They'll share information freely. NARPM is an amazing organization. I've been a part of it myself for, 6 years now, 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I have deep friendships. Like personal relationships with lots of people from NARPM, and that's been it's been a great organization, no doubt about it. So, folks, narpm.org, narpm.org. If you're not a member yet, check that out. There's I also want to plug my chapter, which is California, narpmcalifornia.org. We just built a new website. You can register for the conference there. You can review our educational lineup. The conference, Cal NARPM conference, is happening in April. Check that out. There's a Texas one too, right, Brad?
Yeah, there is. And we're doing a Texas NARPM style in February in Austin. That should be a pretty cool deal. We'll have some good speakers. I think Darren Hunter is going to be showing up.
Wow.
And then, so there's going to be a couple good ones there, but that's always a good opportunity just to sneak up to Austin and see what's going on up there and check out, some good speakers, and always come to those events.
Yeah, we're definitely going as a 4.5 will be represented there, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite parts. Sorry to interrupt you there.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite parts of going to these conferences is getting a one-on-one FaceTime with the vendors like you guys, because there's the class situation, which is awesome, but the down and dirty, okay, how do I actually do something inside the industry? Well, getting in front of a vendor, they can actually explain things to you better to immediately implement into your business, into procedures. Like you guys, if we had some face-to-face time and we sat down and analyzed what we're doing, I know you could come up with a recommendation for me on a few points. So that's the best part about going to these conferences.
Yep. So, vendor relationships, networking, building friendships, solving problems. I mean, come on, join NARPM. Enough said. Let's pop into 4. You want to?
Can we skip to 5? Let's skip to 5.
Let's skip to 5. Okay, I was gonna put this on you and say, hey, you go ahead. I'll take a break. You talk about number 4, but we'll come back to it. Number 5. Okay. Go for it.
Yeah, not establishing enough points of difference. I cannot stress that enough. In my opinion, is I didn't really get that going until later on to truly start sitting down and say, okay, what are my points of difference? And if you don't have any, create some. And it's real simple. If you want to create a good point of difference, have an in-house maintenance company. If you want an easy one, say that you do videos and nobody else does. There's got to be something that you can do in your market to create a point of difference from your competition. And if you can't, again, like I'll say it again, if you don't have any that you can easily pick out, create some, because that's going to set you apart from everyone else doing the same exact thing you're potentially doing, and that's managing homes.
Boy, I feel this is so close to the heart. I'm going to go on the rant right now. You unleashed the fury. Well, so, we help property managers grow for a living. And people do Google AdWords campaign. And Google AdWords campaign, you compete with folks who want to be on the front page for, let's call it San Antonio property management. And when we work with clients and say, well, so, we do a perfect client profile. We try to understand who they want to work with. It's like, well, we'll take anybody. Okay. So what is what's unique about your business? Well, we call it, unique value proposition, right? What is unique about your business? Oh, just use whatever you got, whatever. I will take anybody. I can't. And then what happens? Like, well, why am I not getting conversions? Where are the leads? Well, somebody else is getting the leads because you're vanilla. You're like everything for everybody, and there's really no, you're not attracting a specific category of clients who when they find you go, that's the person that solves my problem. I want to hire these people because they work with investors, or because they work in this part of town, or because I had such a headache with maintenance in the past, or they have the eviction protection program. There's so many points of difference. There's so many, like pet fees. There's so many things. You're absolutely right. You differentiate yourself. That you got to dig before you hire a marketing company even. as you hire a marketing company, bounce things off of them, but do come up with a unique way your business is presenting itself to customers, your unique value proposition, your unique, your points. You call it points of difference. Fine with
What's
me.
the difference?
That's a good name too. Whatever it is, you got to know why you're better than others, and that always. If you're the low price, then fine, but be proud of it. You want to be the cheapest? Fine, own it. Be the cheapest. That's okay too. Whatever, but don't be vanilla.
Yeah, and to put that in context for you as an example, one of our points of difference is a single owner point of contact. We run a portfolio management style hybrid business, and our owners know they can speak to one person directly for anything going on with their home. They have their iPhone, they have their email, and it's a single owner point of contact. So that's a great point of difference that I think we have over potential competitors around here.
That is absolutely true. And people, like, we assume as business owners, and I'm guilty of this as well, that others would know what you do, because you've been brewing in this property management, or in my case, in this digital marketing realm. You hear you go to conferences, you know, or you listen to podcasts, you have your knowledge such compartmentalized in your mind so well that you don't really understand that other people on the other side, they don't know it. They don't know what you know. They don't know anything that you know. They need to be told, explained, and man, this is so good. I love this one. Let's go into your next one. I really like, unless you have anything else to mention on the points of difference. I think that we got that across pretty clear, don't you think?
Yeah, we did. And if you can start the drum roll, we can segue right into point 6. So exactly, point 6 is going to be clearly one of my dirty laundries is bad hires, making bad hires. And in my email to you, I jokingly said there are 2 types of employers in the world: those that have or will make bad hires, and the others that lie about it, never making a bad hire. Because at some point, everybody will do that. And I don't have a perfect solution. I'm not going to come on here and tell you that, well, if you do this, you'll always make a perfect hire. The only thing I can recommend to anybody is to hire slow and fire fast, the old adage. So I guess what we've adopted a little bit further is, because I'm an easy sell. You've sold me your stuff before, and I'm a quick pitch, and I'm where do I sign, Alex? I'm good. Let's go. So I'm like that with my hire sometimes, and it's a negative point of myself that I have to kind of calm down. So anyway, where I'm going to give some advice to your listeners is that do a panel interview as a second interview. So maybe the initial phone interview with the person that's going to hire and the potential person you want to hire, the interviewee. Then a second interview, try to get a panel in front of them. Try to get your general manager and 1 or 2 other folks on that panel, and basically have a group discussion with that hire. The other thing that was suggested to me was just turn it over to somebody else. Turn over the complete hiring process over to somebody else who is not doesn't have my personality. That's a bit more. We'll take them with a grain of salt, because I'm a positive person. I want to give people the benefit of the doubt and give them an opportunity to succeed. But sometimes you have to look at them with a different eye and say, well, I don't know if you're really right for this position.
Yeah, so there are performance concerns, and there's a culture fit. The culture fit can be, the misfit can be even more destructive than low performance. Low performance is easier to measure, coach, and potentially, put them in a program and then get rid of them. Culture fit is tough. So in our case, just to add to your advice, and what you have is absolutely sound, we have at least 6 people interview a prospective employee, and from different departments, asking different questions. And a lot of times we don't really care about their experience too much. We're gonna teach them what they need to learn to do the job well. But we want to understand the personality and make sure there's a fit, and there's a certain kind of a drive behind them. There's competence. There's a opportunity for competence, but there's also like they care, and they have their personal life pretty well structured. They have hobbies. There's a lot of things that go into it, but we have at least 4 to 5 different perspectives. Then we get together and make a unanimous decision. If decision is not unanimous, that person's not getting hired.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I wish you could bottle that, process and put it out to the world forever, because it's one of those things that you kind of have to stumble through to figure out on your own. That's what we found. We
Yep.
do, by the way, on that with the employee process, I really, really like how we use a PEO, like a third party payroll provider, and we basically lease our employees from them. And that is super slick. That's really been a tremendous, headache off of us, is going through a PEO to have our employees on the books.
Interesting. So I wouldn't call it a leasing employee, but it's in some ways, I guess you can interpret it as such. We also use a PEO. We've signed up with a company called TriNet, I think about a couple of years ago, as soon as we could afford them. And it's been great. The HR help. So, besides, finding the right fit, there's also, things like benefits and other things that you buy at a much better rate when you work with a PEO, because they have thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of employees. And you don't, as a small business, so you don't have the buying power they have. So yeah, that's actually pretty good advice. Interesting. So
Yeah.
you guys use a PO. That's good.
Yep. So I'd like to segue right into point 7 with you.
How are you gonna segue into this? This is
I don't know.
a completely different one. We got to come up with a good segue, but let's
So
just hit it.
the segue is, if you want to bang your head against the wall, let's talk about the IRS. Okay.
Nice one.
So the good point, bad points, however you want to take them. I've got a couple good points for you. Ensure that your 1099s are in order to send out to your owners every January. So go through your process, ensure it's watertight, ensure that you have good taxpayer identification numbers for the folks that you manage, because the IRS will catch it and they fine you on every one that's incorrect. So anytime there's a fat-fingered number in your software and it transposes the number, you're going to get a fine. You're going to get a letter that says you're going to get a fine. So it's been a real headache, and we actually do quarterly audits now to ensure that all of our 1099s are accurate, at least the taxpayer identification number. So when we send them up to the IRS, we're not going to get those nasty gram letters. And the second part of that is ensure that you're filing your tax returns for your limited liability corporations that a lot of people set up. We've got a maintenance division, we've got a homeowners association division, and all had new LLCs, and we formed them late one year, and we didn't do a tax return because they were only alive for a couple months and they had no revenue, right? But we still got a nasty gram from the IRS that says we, owed them this big fine, and we sent a letter and said, please forgive us, and they spanked our little hand and said, okay, you're forgiven, but don't do it again. And so a couple lessons learned, hopefully your audience can take from that. Get a good CPA and make sure that you're in their back pocket every month talking about your numbers and making sure your processes are correct.
You cannot overstate this. This is, we used to pay, as an organization ourselves, we used to pay IRS fines for just about everything. I couldn't believe it. This payroll late, this late. I mean, it was just little things, and it ended up to a huge number. And I looked at my year-end P&L in 2013, I think, and I'm like, whoa. Saving money on bringing a good bookkeeper is the most ridiculous thing you can ever do to your business, if not kill it altogether.
Another good point on that is I'm a fan of Robert Kiyosaki and everything he's put out. He recommends to have your personal books maintained by your bookkeeper. And so I started doing that this year, to where all of our personal finances for the wife and I and the family, and they're all being run through the bookkeeper along with our business. And some people forget to do that. They're like, I'll just go home and do it on QuickBooks or whatever they want to do, or Quicken. And they forget to add that. Well, come tax time, you're having to combine two different files to turn into your CPA. Well, just have your bookkeeper do everything for you, and then it's just one easy file to your CPA, and a lot less headache involved.
That's an interesting point. Okay, good stuff. All right, we're checking along pretty well here. I think number 8 is pretty interesting, and we can spend some time on it.
Yeah.
You call it not implementing a preferred vendor program as a mistake. Tell me more.
Absolutely. So everyone's going to have to do maintenance. And you're either going to have a couple different ways to run a maintenance company. I'll give you 2 good lessons learned there. Is inside of a maintenance company, if you want to do it inside your business, stay small or go big. Don't get stuck in no man's land. Don't go in the middle. Because if you're in the middle, you're not making money. And trust me from experience in this. So we've actually downsized our maintenance division to a director of maintenance and a one-person in-house maintenance guy with a van. And so that's how we run. But the preferred vendor program is something that I would basically justify as a great way to ensure that your maintenance company will be profitable. And essentially, you could do it a couple different ways. You could go out and secure discounts from the vendors, or all the software that we use, all the software you can mention, they all allow you to pay vendors a discounted rate. So you have to go out and to negotiate that particular rate with a preferred vendor. So if you want to talk easy math, let's say you get an invoice for $100 and you've negotiated a 10% discount with that particular vendor of that $100 invoice. You write a check for $90 going out the door, and now you have a $10 or 10% margin of profit just from doing that one little idea. And so when you take that to the aggregate, that could be thousands, hundreds of thousands.
I want to qualify something. This is a mystery to me, and I want to dig a little deeper here. You said, right when you opened point number 8, you said either staying small in your inside maintenance company or going big is the way to go. Middle is no way to make money. Can you qualify a little bit? Can you tell me more why is it so hard to make money being in the middle there? And what's the middle?
The middle, I would say, would be 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 trucks and guys and staff members working for you. I think that's to keep a guy on a payroll over the winter or the summer, whatever your market's going to dictate, to keep a guy on a payroll full time and not have enough work for him in the slower times of year just kills all your profits. And we had a very good panel in the last broker owner conference. They had a maintenance panel, and the guys that were on that were just phenomenal, talking about their maintenance companies. And one of them was our past Larsen president. You know him well. They were up there talking about it, and the size of their maintenance companies is just phenomenal. They got 10, 15, 20 folks working for them, 15, 20 trucks being dispatched at all times. And that's one of the ways they make money on that is going that big. I found for us, when we got into that middle range, it was just not profitable at all. I mean, you're really breaking even, and you're basically offering a point of difference for free. And so we scaled back, and we just run with one truck, one guy, one van, one guy, and one maintenance director, and they execute your maintenance, because you cannot get away from it running a management company, because maintenance and management go hand in hand. You can't do one or the other, because somebody's got to organize and coordinate for the maintenance. You might as well do that in-house. And I like the preferred vendor technique. I'm very happy with it, and I should have been using it years ago, but I just now really kind of went full circle and shot myself in the foot, and that's where we come around to that being a big lesson learned.
Interesting. So preferred vendor in combination with a small in-house maintenance team is what the formula is for you right now. But what if you were double the size? By the way, what is your portfolio? We never qualified that. What do you guys?
Yeah, we're at 600 single-family homes.
Very nice. So if you were at 1,200, do you think you could swing a larger company?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. However, the headache involved and the insurance implications going along with it, I just look at other management companies in San Antonio. I could drop names, but they're all good. You've probably heard of them. Mm-hmm. And I speak very highly of all of them. I'm taking what they're doing in their maintenance companies, and they potentially are twice my size. And I think that's been a formula for success for them for years, decades. And I don't want to be the trailblazer on that one. I'm just telling you that I should have been looking around a long time ago to figure out this process and adopted it sooner. That's the lesson learned of my dirty laundry.
So one other question on in-house maintenance, or I call them complementary business units, right? If you run that maintenance company as its own organization and bill back to Larsen Properties all the fees and actually do its own P&L, do you do its own P&L, or is it combined?
We do its own P&L, but I could tell you, I think it can be either way. There's been good advice at the NARPM conferences that says break out your maintenance company for liability issues, et cetera, et cetera. I could argue it also could stay into the management company as an integral part that you basically have to do. Right. So it's either or. 6 one and a half dozen the other. They both work out, but I think it's just something that's got to be done.
Gotcha. So if you run this as its own independent, business unit, Is there money to be made in, like, let's say, forget your Larsen, let's say you sell Larsen Property Management and you focus on maintenance. Can you make money just doing that?
I think it would be tough. I
Ah,
think it would be tough. I think if you could squeeze past a 10% margin, profit margin, you'd be doing very well. And of course, there's examples out there where, I'm sure you're going to get hate mail. Oh, I get, 11% margin. He's wrong. Well, okay, there you go. But I think the management side has much more potential for profit and actual contractual value. We start talking about the value of the business as a whole. It's much easier to potentially sell a contract for management than it is some sort of maintenance structure entity over to your right. Imagine if you're trying to sell those businesses, who's going to want to buy which one? No one's going to want to buy the maintenance company.
no doubt.
Should be a lot of people lined up to buy your management contracts.
No doubt. And also, lifetime customer value is, maintenance could be an $80 repair, where average lifetime customer value for a property management client is in the, could be in the multiples of thousands, 5, 6, 10,000 in some cases.
Yep.
So earning a customer for property management is over the long haul is less expensive than earning a customer for maintenance. So I get it. All right. So maintenance to complement your existing business, and use preferred vendors, negotiate a discount, and that's good. That's a good advice.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Number 9, near and dear to my heart. Let's hit on reviews a little bit and your perspective on how that works for your business.
Yeah, so I think it would be a mistake to not embrace Yelp and Google and all the others out there. You got Yelp, Google, Angie's List, Better Business Bureau. You probably have 10 others that you could drop on me here, but basically, I think you need to get past the point that we're all mad at Yelp, right?
Yeah.
Every business owner you talk to, from top to bottom, they're not big fans of Yelp to a certain degree, because some things, I can go on to Yelp and say Alex is a Martian, and you can't do anything about it. It really is kind of frustrating, but I've turned my attitude around a little bit and basically have tried to embrace those review platforms. And I do think long term, 5 to 10 years down the road, I think they're just going to be white noise. I think that people are going to put a diminishing value of stock into Yelp and Google type reviews, because at some point everyone's going to even out. And they're all going to have the same type of reviews from friends, family, and then whomever they were able to cajole into bringing them a review. So at this point, at this stage of the game, 2016 going into 17, basically I think you want to embrace them and try to make yourself stand out, because it's another good point of difference, as we talked about, is having solid Yelp reviews and solid Google reviews. And you know this tremendously because you taught me this years ago. Is you don't know what you're missing out on. You don't know who's looking at you today saying, I'm not going to call that company because their Yelp reviews were not to my liking. And that's something you never could even quantify what you're missing out on.
Yeah, agreed. And the truth is that vast majority of your clients and tenants are happy.
Well, you hope so.
Yeah, I mean, they're happy, meaning that they have a good place to live, they're paying rent, they're responsible people, and the owner's getting their check every month, and they're happy too. You're getting their maintenance done. They would never venture to consider to give you a review without a prompt, because, what's a successful property management relationship? I got a good house, good. Thank you very much. So you only really think of a property manager when things go wrong. So that's why the industry, it's a simple metric why the industry is getting, and also multiple constituencies like tenants and owners. It's if you do nothing, you will end up with lots of negative reviews, most of them not untrue, just because people won't necessarily say, okay, I didn't pay rent for 3 months, I got evicted, 5 stars. Not going to happen. They're going to say something to the tune of, this is the worst property manager in the world, stay away, blah, blah, blah. And that's just, that's how we are as humans. We're not going to take on the blame. We're going to blame somebody else. So to be able to combat that, asking your happy customers for reviews is the way to go. And just got to have a system in place. You did a pretty good job on that, don't you? How many, you have a lot of Google reviews.
Yeah, we're in the 150, 160 range and like a 4.8 average. So we're doing okay there. We've got some techniques that work pretty well and in getting those reviews, and we've also got some techniques that work pretty well in getting rid of reviews, to where we potentially go back to that reviewer and try to work things out as best you can. So, not to take your whole episode on this, but we're going to have to get to number 10, and number one on the list, let's say. So we're going to have to do a drum roll with some fireworks here for us to get to this number one.
Okay. Well, go ahead and hit it.
All right. So my number one biggest mistakes out there, I think, would be failing to implement, meaning failing to recognize a good idea and failing to put it in your business not soon enough. And I could talk all day about this because it's something that I'm a firm believer in, is when you see something at these conferences and, hey, that's a great idea. And somebody may even write it down and then they go back to their home office and they don't do anything about it. So you want to quantify it? Let's give you a good one right now. So exactly a year ago, we looked into tenant liability insurance. It was directly after that conference in Minnesota, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we were up there in Minneapolis, and that was in late October, I believe. And then we came home in November, and okay, December, we got around to looking at this in detail. And we looked at the tenant liability insurance as a whole and thought, that's great. That's a no-brainer. That makes a ton of sense. And there's a bunch of vendors out there you can look at. But this year, 2016, after we implemented that program, last year, 12 months ago, we made an extra $14,000 just in 1 year with about 1/3 implementation, meaning we only got about 1/3 of our tenants on that program, and we made an extra $14,000 in company revenue. So failing to implement would have cost me that much. So
Fair
that's a
enough.
great way to quantify it.
Is there a certain system you use to take knowledge learned at the NARPM conferences and other industry events to take back to your shop and work on implementing?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm a fan of writing things down with an actual pen and an actual paper. Too often of times we get lazy and just say, take notes on your iPhone or bring in an iPad and kind of type at them a little bit. I'm a firm believer that if you physically write something down, it ingrains itself into your brain there a little bit better, because it's the tactile response of your fingers actually moving the pen, and you can look up and write at the same time. You're probably pretty good at that, right? So it puts that into your brain a bit more, and then you have to organize those thoughts later on to say, okay, this is first. This is an easy one. This is going to make us money. I'm going to do this first. And you have to prioritize them all the way down to like, okay, this is a back burner one, because one, we make very little money on it, and two, it's going to take a long time to implement. So the ones that can make you a good chunk of revenue, you want to knock out first.
Yeah, I agree. So we've covered good 9 points. I have one more to bring up. And it has to do with the I guess I'm just trying to kind of verbalize myself here. It has to do with some business owners utilizing set it and forget it strategy rather than measure and improve and iterate and measure again and so on. So I think you actually brought that up here as one of the points where you say establish metrics. Point number 2 we talked about. But I think I personally see this really good companies completely fail in certain elements, and specifically in growth, by thinking that, okay, I'm just going to hire this marketing company and I can just move away, or I'm going to implement Appfolio or Propertyware or whatever this new system is that you're looking at, Buildium, right, or anything else, or Rently, anything, and you could just set it and let it kind of, I guess, install itself, and then let it kind of work for you and bring the efficiencies back and your bottom line. That's not going to happen. It requires, as a business owner, it is your job to make sure that every system in your business is constantly spitting out KPIs where you're measuring these things, where you're tracking these things, and and make sure some of your employees own certain aspects of your business, and you got my big belief is compensating people for performance. So there's some performance metrics connected to their paycheck, and and that way everybody's aligned behind a single purpose. So don't use set it and forget it strategy. Set it, manage it. Make sure it gives you the information you need to make decisions on how to continue to improve the system, whether it's a software, whether it's a marketing program you're implementing, a new website, whatever it is. So that kind of wraps up our 10. Brad, I want to thank you very much. Any other parting words of wisdom?
On the implementation side, for sure, you hit the nail on the head with a lot of comments there. I will tell you that going back to quantify this again, we talked about this earlier in the show with what gets measured, gets managed through our metrics. And we talked about the sundries income of, roughly 70 cents to every dollar in management fee. Well, that's a direct result of implementation, of taking ideas that I picked up at NARPM or that I picked up through kind of keeping my antenna up, as one of your podcasters might say, keeping up the antenna and picking up what's out there, coming back and putting it into the system. Okay, that's the end result of where I've got to that point, is implementation. And I can't say it enough. So, if we could, like we talked about earlier, if we could bottle it and package it and sell it, we could, but it's just something that's coming from internally. The business owners, they have to do themselves. This is not a set and forget asset you have. This is a business, and you continually have to nurse it and implement new ideas. And that's going to keep it healthy and vibrant and growing.
Awesome, Brad. So thank you kindly. If people wanted to chat you up, would you be open for some questions?
Absolutely.
How would they be able to reach you?
You can find us on our website. It's SATXPM, so San Antonio, Texas Property Management, SATXPM.com. And my email is brad@satxpm.com.
Brad, you've been most kind, and this is one of the best episodes with a lot of actionable advice. I appreciate your time, sir, and we'll see you in January at the PM Grow Summit.
You got it, Alex. I'm excited.
Thanks.